I've got an appointment upcoming at 11 a.m. with the consultant sports medicine doctor. The results I'll be getting will be from my right leg and my left leg. So my left leg, left hamstring is the one I had surgery on last year, tore that one. That was a full complete proximal hamstring rupture. So the left hamstring rupture I had was a full proximal hamstring rupture. I had surgery on that leg, and therefore this MRI will just give me a little bit of information as to how that has healed since. Okay, so I'm about 9 months post-op at the moment. Now the right one is the one I tore more recently, and that's a more minor tear, I'm hoping. So I'll be getting those results today. Around 12 I'll be going to the hospital, so I am still on placement, just finishing up placement now. So today might actually be my last day going into the hospital as a student, which is a nice feeling. So I'll be going in there around 12, and therefore I'm going to prepare some lunch now that I'm going to eat after the appointment. So I'm just preparing something in my little childish lunchbox here. So you can see there's multiple different compartments in this lunchbox. I've got some blueberries in there already. There's some chicken in the oven, which I'll add in once that's cooked. I've got some sugar snap peas, so I eat them uncooked. I think they're quite tasty and easy to eat on their own. So I've got some of them. What else am I going to bring? I'm not going to be particularly hungry because I'm training later on, so I mean, I have no reason really to be having a massive lunch. I'm just not hungry. Have a bigger breakfast. Got this little compartment. I'm going to put some avocado in here. So spoon that out. Nice soft avocado. Easy spooning. A little bit brown, but you know, it's fine. Yeah, sure, look, we have space. We'll throw in a few baby tomatoes as well. Love these. My days tend to be pretty scattered at the moment in that they vary quite a bit. So I'm balancing my final med exam preparation. So I've got my first of my final med exams. We've got 11 in total. The first one is on Saturday. It's a pediatrics OSCE, which is, I think, an objective structured clinical examination, or observed structured clinical examination. One or the other, but it's a practical exam, that's what it is. So we'll have 4 pediatric stations, 12 minutes for each station. For example, be something like a child has just had a seizure, they're still seizing, how are you going to manage this case? So you work through each respective step, then you try to find, you know, what was the cause of the seizure, what would you do going forward, what might you tell the parents, all this type of stuff. Okay, so you'll have different stations like that, and that's the OSCE. Preparing for that, I'm also finishing up my placement. I've got this hamstring situation to deal with, and of course I'm looking after my own health and fitness and Triage, our business, as well. So you'll see the meal I'm preparing, relatively healthy meal, and that's kind of what I'm trying to maintain. It can be very easy to let your nutrition slip and to just fall into the trap of just eating convenience foods, and I definitely fall into that myself sometimes, but I'm just trying to make a more conscious effort to maintain my basic health practices during this time. So I still have quite a bit of Triage work to do. I just had a new client, so I've got his programming and startup to finish off today. I'll send him through his video where we walk through all of the details of the coaching process, explain the programming, my rationale, potential changes we'll make in future, nutrition guidelines, goal setting, etc. So that's the process of starting up a client. The next few weeks are likely to be the most stressful weeks I've ever had in my life because of the 11 exams that are upcoming and the importance of these exams in terms of getting over the line and graduating as a doctor. Okay, you fail these exams, obviously not ideal, so I don't want that to happen. So preparation right now, really important. At the moment, most days tend to be structured in such a way that I wake at about 4:30 in the morning. So I get up early, that's my preference, wake at about 4:30 in the morning, and then I go to bed. I'm winding down from about 8:30. I don't necessarily get to sleep at that time. It's often 9:30 or around that, but yeah, generally once 8:30 comes around, I'm winding down. Ideally, what I like to do once I see about 8:30 on the clock is just start reading something that I enjoy reading. I read something that isn't necessarily for I read something that isn't necessarily medical, because that just kind of prolongs the stress associated with exams, etc. So I'll read something different. So very often that's the Bible, or it might be some sort of fiction or a biographical book. They'd be my preferences prior to bedtime. So most days are pretty intense right now. So tend to be kind of, 16 hours or so of the day I'm switched on, focused, working on something, whether it's study or work. It's just go, go, go. And that's fine. I can do that short term. Because exams are so close, it's actually much easier to just keep going, keep going, keep going. You wake up and you feel like it's just more and more and more. That's obviously not something that you want to sustain long term, but it is something that's sustainable short term. Now, the difficult thing is that because this is such a long exam season, 11 exams over the span of 4 to 5 weeks, it's a bit more difficult to sustain that. So what I'll try to do after this exam, we've got a 2-week period where it's pretty much just study prior to a run of exams that are really close together. So what I'm hoping to do is to make sure that I prioritize my health and fitness, as I said, and not necessarily enter chaos mode of exam season, which can often happen where, you just have totally different wake and sleep times. You're absolutely hammering caffeine all the time, sacrificing sleep, etc. I want to keep those basics of, my sleep being good, at least engaging in some sort of hobby, keeping my health and fitness in check, just keeping those things going, especially during that 2-week period, so that I don't burn out too early in the exam season, because every exam is difficult. They're very difficult. So they're going to be very challenging. And therefore I need to sustain myself, because what I'd be worried about is that early on you get into that period of super high stress, sleep deprivation, etc. And those first few exams go well, but then you're just not able to sustain that. So trying to make it a bit more sustainable, which is very different to other exam periods. Classically, in most undergraduate degrees and even earlier on in medicine, you might have a week of your most intense exams, or you might have 2 weeks of exams, whereas we've got a really prolonged period here. And what's also unique about medicine is that we've had exams pretty much all along, So just last week I had a long case exam, which is pretty stressful. We've got assignments to submit this week. We had our FYP that was submitted not so long ago. We've already done 4 long cases, multiple other forms of assessments, written exams throughout the year. So if you were to add up the amount of assignments / exams that you would have throughout the year, it could be 30 plus. I don't know, but it's a lot. So you really have to have a bit more of a sustainable approach than just the chaos, sprint, sleep deprivation, caffeine overload of a normal exam period. So there's some of my thoughts at the moment. I might talk a little bit more about study practices later on, because it was requested by someone who follows my content. But again, because the nature of medicine versus leaving cert, which is what this young man asked about, it's kind of difficult to give transferable lessons, but I'll chat about it later or in the next video. Hey guys, how's it going? So I'm just out from the consultant appointment that I mentioned, and I'm just going to talk you through the results. So did a pretty bad job on it again, pretty relatively severe hamstring injury. So with just one muscle involved, thankfully, or for the most part anyway, my semimembranosus, at least a 50% tear, again involving the proximal end of the muscle. So that means it's up close to the origin again, but I haven't done enough of a job to require surgery. So he said it just about avoiding surgery at this point, but still looking at 3 months or more until a full return to sport. So it is what it is. It doesn't seem like as much of a big deal, because I had such a severe injury last time. Like the last one was as bad as it could be, but even that the consultant was saying that this is a pretty severe injury as hamstring injuries go, and asking how I felt about it and stuff. And my perspective is just that because my comparison was so severe last time, I don't feel too bad about this. So they're my thoughts at the moment. But let me see. So the good news is the left one is actually fairly well healed. Obviously it's not perfect, but it's pretty good. So acute injury. So with regards to the right,
Acute injury demonstrated of the proximal right semimembranosus tendon. Proximal extent is within 1 centimeter of the ischial tuberosity. Proximal extent is within 1 centimeter of the ischial tuberosity. So again, really close to the origin there at the ischial tuberosity is where I had this injury, and changes extend over a length of 6.5 centimeters. Cross-sectional involvement is up to 50%, grade 2C. Minor semitendinosus muscle belly involvement is present, and no significant right biceps femoris injury is involved. Okay, so that's good. You know, I have a tear to my semitendinosus muscle belly, but it's the semimembranosus that's really the issue here in terms of the actual tear to the tendon. Okay, because that's not good. And then we've got our proximal left hamstring, which is the one I injured previously. Biceps femoris and semimembranosus tendons are hypertrophied, suggesting tendinopathy and scarring, as we'd expect. Some artifact is present at the left ischial tuberosity, so the bone is just not really healthy yet. Likely some minor marrow edema in addition. That's fine, you know, I don't expect that side to ever look perfect again. No further acute muscle tear or hematoma is demonstrated in the quadriceps, hamstring, or adductor muscle groups, thankfully. No groin adenopathy is present. There is no further bone marrow edema, fracture, or concerning lesion. So in summary, a 2 centimeter proximal, or sorry, not 2 centimeter, grade 2C proximal right semimembranosus injury. So fair play to me. Again, a bad enough one as hamstring injuries go. When hamstring injuries occur at the proximal tendon, the outcome is just a messy old process, because you need to allow for tendon healing. So you're not just talking about muscle remodeling, you're talking about tendon remodeling, and that's a relatively vulnerable area to rupture and then have that requirement for surgery, you know. So look, it is what it is. I'm not too upset about it. It just means another 3 months out of kind of training properly after already having such a long process of tearing the other side and having surgery and everything. So, you know, it is what it is. If I had an injury like this, I think, you know, having not had the more severe one before, I'd probably be a bit more upset about it, a bit more frustrated about it. But, you know, it means, grand, I won't be able to train jiu-jitsu properly, but I can focus on the gym, you know, focus on hypertrophy training, etc. And it also means I can just divert that attention towards my studies and towards my work, which I have no shortage of at the moment. So, and one thing just to add there with that grade 2C of the hamstring tendinous tear, it doesn't mean I've definitely avoided surgery. It just means that non-operative management would be the initial approach. So there is still the possibility that down the line, you know, just mightn't heal properly, and that conservative management won't work, and that I will require surgery again. But for now, I can go ahead with the rehab process. So I'll try to document that for you guys, and hopefully we won't have to go under the knife. Hopefully we can just stick to the gym and the rehab process. So back to hamstring rehab once again. So guys, with all that drama out of the way, just went into the hospital to finish off my placement, and now I'm eating my lunch that we mentioned previously. So you saw me make my lunch. I'm going to eat it now in the car. And then it turns out that my dad is actually up in Cork here for a cardiology appointment today. So I'm going to go and attend that appointment with him, with the cardiologist, and make sure he's not telling fibs about eating a healthy diet and exercising regularly, you know. So yeah, I'm really interested in cardiology anyway. So I like being in that environment, seeing what the cardiologist is doing for him. And obviously he's my father, so I care that he gets good treatment, etc. So yeah, lunchtime. See you later on.